Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Sarah Owens, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Burnham Risk. And today we're going to talk about COVID-19 and the impact that COVID is having on workers' compensation and you as employers and your employees within your organization. I wanted to start by telling you just a little bit about Burnham. At Burnham, we have three distinct areas of expertise. We have Burnham Benefits, focusing on employee benefits consulting, Burnham Gibson, focusing on retirement planning and wealth management. Then we have Burnham Risk, focusing on the property and casualty side of the business, risk management. Really, all three of our entities are working together to help make sure that you're able to attract and retain top talent, making sure that you have the safest working environment and a robust benefits package for all of your employees. So today, our focus is on COVID-19 and workers' compensation, and again, how that applies and impacts you and your organization. But I do want to start with saying the laws around COVID, the new legislation, this is all actively evolving and changing. How this will apply to your specific situation and any nuances within your organization could be different than what we're talking about in this presentation today. So I would encourage you to be mindful of what's evolving and changing as time goes on, and we're recording this in November 2020, but as things progress. And then I would also encourage you, please reach out to us. You'll find all of our information at the end of this presentation, but if you do have specific questions about how these laws, this legislation impacts you, or what do you do specifically if you have a COVID outbreak around work comp, at your organization, please reach out to us because we can help you build those strategies to focus on your specific needs and situation. So the two laws that we're really going to focus on today are the two Senate bills, SB 1159 and AB 685. And these two new laws really will impact workers' compensation for you as employers, and then how you need to notify employees who may have been exposed to COVID-19 at the workplace. So SB 1159 really focuses on employees working outside of their home at the employer's direction. And if they do contract COVID, they will be eligible or could be eligible for workers' compensation benefits. And then AB 685 is going to really focus on how and when we notify other employees who may have been exposed to COVID. Now that's going to go into effect January 1st of 2021, but that's right around the corner. So we need to start preparing for that now. And I think really best practices, we should actually start to implement a notification process now, so we are ready when this does become law if somebody does contract COVID in the workplace. So who does SB 1159 apply to? Well, the short answer is pretty much anyone. So if you have more than 5 employees, this applies to you. So if you have an employee who contracts COVID within 14 days after being at their place of employment or working off-site at the employer's direction, it is presumed that that employee contracted COVID under their employment at work. They would be eligible for workers' compensation, okay? What does this mean? So again, COVID is presumed to be work-related under certain circumstances if they contracted COVID, a positive COVID test within 14 days of being on the work site. So this extends through January of 2023. And it does require that a positive case be reported to the workers' compensation carrier. You're not necessarily putting in a claim, but it does require you to report a positive test to the workers' compensation carrier. It goes further to say that an employee must exhaust any COVID-19 related paid leave before they do receive workers' compensation benefits. But again, the key here is really going to be making sure that this COVID case is reported, regardless of if you can really tell exactly where it was contracted. If that employee was working outside of their home within 14 days of contracting COVID, you must report the illness. Excuse me. So the reporting timeline. You need to report these cases to the workers' compensation carrier very specifically and very timely. So the first piece we're going to talk about July 5th to September 17th. We're obviously past that, so you had 30 days if you knew of a positive COVID case, but I would highly encourage you, again, we're past that 30 days reporting guidelines. So if you know of a positive COVID case that occurred during that time frame, you need to report it immediately to your workers' compensation carrier. If you receive notice of a COVID-19 positive test after September 17th, you have 3 days to report that in writing to your workers' compensation claims administrator. Okay, so 3 days to report it in writing to the workers' compensation carrier if it happened after September 17th. What are you required to report? So you must report that an employee tested positive, but you do not have to include any personal identifiable information unless that employee asserts to you that this is a work-related infection. So what would an example of that be? The employee says, I have only come to the office, I haven't gone anywhere else, I know I got COVID at work. Then you need to report the identifiable information to the workers' compensation carrier. If not, you just need to report that you do have a positive case on site. So this is a sample reporting form. Every insurance company is going to have their own form. We wanted to give an example of what types of information they might be asking you for. So again, I encourage you to reach out to your insurance provider, your workers' compensation provider, to see what form that they're requiring for you to send this information in. And remember to make sure that you're following those timing guidelines and getting that in within 72 hours of knowing that there's a positive case on site. If you don't comply, yes, there's a penalty. So you need to follow the form pretty specifically. Make sure that you're filling out all of the information correctly. And if you don't, obviously civil penalties and up to a $10,000 fine for not following that protocol. So what if you want to dispute a COVID-19 case? You want to dispute that that was actually contracted at the place of employment. That burden falls on you as the employer. So just know that if you do decide that you want to dispute the case and say this was a non-occupational risk of COVID and the infection has nothing to do with me as the employer or with us as the employer, you must dispute this in writing directly with your workers' compensation carrier, and you have 30 days from getting that positive test from the employee to actually do that dispute, okay? So those are the guidelines that you need to follow as the employer for reporting to the insurance company. You also now need to make sure that you're following the proper protocol. If you need to let others know, provide notice of a potential exposure to a COVID-19 from a work-related setting. So if you have an employee that does have a laboratory confirmed case of COVID, you must make that employee isolate, and then you must inform the other employees who potentially had contact or who did have contact with that exposure that they were exposed. So who to notify? All employees who were present at the same work site within the infectious period. That's going to be defined by the State Department of Public Health. So again, I encourage you, go to that website, reach out to us if you have specific situations about what that means. But in this specific situation, I would say, be overly extend to whom you notify. So more is more. If you think somebody was there, you're not 100% sure, let them know that there was a potential exposure so they can get tested and take care of themselves. You also must specifically state that they were potentially exposed to COVID-19. So again, that might be obvious since this is what we're talking about, but you can't say, hey, you may have been exposed to something. Again, the language is very important and specific here. So you have to tell everyone that they were potentially exposed to COVID-19 if they were on site with someone who was diagnosed. Now, how do you notify people? Again, very specific. We get lots of questions. Can I just call the employees? Do I have to send a special letter? What do I need to do? Well, the answer is you need to reach out to your employees in a way that's reasonable, in a way that you would reasonably reach out to them if you did need to notify them about a specific situation. I know that that's not very specific, but different employers have different ways of communicating with their employees. There's two keys that you really have to think about, two key pieces of information. You really want to make sure this is backed up and documented. So yes, you can call them. I think that's a appropriate and good thing to do, but you should also send them an email. You should also send a text message, some other form of communication that really shows that they did receive that, and you can track that the notice was given to the employees. You can send it to you can send them notice via regular mail. However, you have to anticipate that they're going to receive that letter within 1 business day. So you have to notify everyone, regardless of how you do it. You have to let them know within 1 business day. So if you can't guarantee the mail won't get there, again, I would suggest doing it through email, text message, some other reasonable means of communication that you can reasonably expect that they got that notice. The notice must be sent out in English, and then any other language that's understood by the majority of the employee population. So if you do have a bilingual population, you need to send it out in the language that's understood by the majority of the employees, as well as English. So unions may have different requirements on how you notify the employees. Sometimes you notify the union and they notify their employees. Again, those are all going to be those nuanced pieces that we can help direct you with specifically for your specific situations. But again, just something to note here, that if you do have a union, you do have a union population, I would check with the union to make sure you're coordinating your efforts in reaching out to the appropriate parties if there is an exposure. So there's all these new requirements. We know it's a lot. And again, this is just a general overview, but some best practices that I want to make sure everyone remembers. You're going to just be mindful in how you manage all of this changing legislation. Continue to educate yourself. You can't ask too many questions. It's the last bullet point is, when in doubt, reach out, call your consultant, call us. We can help you manage all the new laws and ask the questions. Because you don't want to be on the wrong side of understanding how something works. So please ask those questions. We're happy to help answer all of those, because again, this is all constantly changing. Document everything. Document, document, document. I can't stress that enough. Again, we want to make sure that you're getting credit for all of the hard work you're doing by tracking all of this, putting it in place, but a verbal conversation isn't enough. So we just want to make sure that you are documenting everything that you are sending to your employees. Set up a written plan ahead of time for reporting COVID-19 cases. The last thing you want to do is be in a place where someone gets COVID and no one knows what to do, who to report it to or when, or they don't understand the different reporting structures. So make sure everyone within the organization understands how and when they should be reporting a COVID-19 case, to who they need to be reporting it to, and build that plan ahead of time. Because again, we want to make sure we're ahead of this for January of 2021. We want to make sure your working environments are safe and healthy. And so develop that plan. And again, if you need help with that, please reach out. So I know we've gone through a lot today on this webinar. We're happy to share this presentation with you. If you do have any questions about workers' compensation and how that may apply to your team around COVID, really anything else, any other questions around benefits consulting or the wealth management, I would encourage you to connect with us, reach out, visit us at our COVID-19 response page, and please, again, let us know if you have any questions. We're here and we're always happy to help. So thank you again, everyone, for being with us today. Really appreciate all your time, and we look forward to connecting with you soon.